Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fawbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And good morning, Kentucky. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice, where common sense meets conversation. I'm Bob Scott, your host today, along with my partner and co-host in truth, Tom Fawbush.
Hello.
We're here to cut through the noise. Absolutely. The noise, the highlight, and just basically just highlight the stories and really what matters to you and it really all of Kentuckians. And we're going to be tackling issues that are shaping our communities, our state, and our nation today. We do have a very full lineup, folks. We're going to be talking about, of course, politics, obviously, but national security, election showdowns. Yes, there are some election showdowns getting ready to happen before the midterms. And a bombshell report out of Minnesota. So you need to buckle in, pour that second cup of coffee, and let's get this show rolling. Let me kick things off right here at home. Last night, we talked about it on yesterday's show, the Louisville Metro Council had a razor-thin vote of 13-12 on a proposal from J.P. Leininger, a Democrat socialist member of the council. He wanted to ban law enforcement officers. Now get this, especially, of course, ICE officers. This isn't politically motivated. No. From wearing masks while on duty. Fortunately, thank God, the measure was defeated, but just barely. We were talking about that before we went on the air today. Again, in a narrow 13-12 vote. I do have a clip I want to play, courtesy of WHAS. Please play clip 0.
A hot debate within the Louisville Metro Council chambers.
It is to demonize our law enforcement officers, and in this case, specifically, our federal immigration and customs enforcement officers, ICE, who, like it or not, are to remove illegal aliens from our country.
You all have a duty to stand up for your constituents. Without checks and balances like this amendment, law enforcement becomes tyranny, and people become more and more frightened of the people who swore to protect them.
On the agenda, an amendment led by Councilman J.P. Leininger of District 6, seeking to strengthen an ordinance regarding the wearing of face masks in public spaces. It lists exemptions, but also focuses on preventing local and federal agents like ICE from wearing them in public within the city.
Our officers currently with LMPD, Sheriff's Department, they have a policy in place that they have to identify who they are on any traffic stop, on any violation period.
Councilwoman Giddy Mulvey-Woldridge of District 24 says she's voting no.
My husband is a retired LMPD officer. He's currently with the Sheriff's Department as a deputy. But again, it's safety for the officer, safety for the family, and I don't understand why we are singling out one specific profession and not others.
Louisvillians agreeing with the councilwoman took to public comment, but there's also a large show of support for the amendment. Multiple Louisvillians holding signs saying no masked police, vote yes, like Amy Halverson.
I think that would be a huge way for us as Louisville to say, like, we're not okay with the fear that this is bringing. We don't think we're
that's good. Thank you, Amy, for your words of wisdom. The bottom line is, Tom, and I think we know the agenda here, and that's honestly to dox a law enforcement officer, and what the councilwoman earlier was saying, thereby putting them and their families at risk.
Yeah, exactly right. Everybody knows the far left are crazy, they're violent, and they will use all means necessary to push their agenda, such as doxing and threatening law enforcement officers. And real quickly, I've got a picture of J.D. Seliger. Mr. Producer, if you can put this up real quick. This is what he does in his spare time. This is actually, no, I'm sorry. This is actually the bass player from Spinal Tap. But that's who he reminded me of with his hairstyle. But anyway, they are crazy, and so yeah. 15 seconds. At the end of the day, this is a good move. Metro Council did the right thing. And listen, ICE is under threat. Listen, they were shooting at ICE officers in other cities. So.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you are listening to Kentucky's Voice. So glad that you joined us today. And if you could just hear the off-air conversations, I swear I think they're better than half the time of what we are actually putting on air. But if you'd like to join in the discussion today, you can do so by texting us at 502-571-0970. Again, that text line number is 502-571-0970. Our next topic is going to take us to Washington, where Congresswoman Maria Salazar of Florida, whose parents escaped Castro's regime in Cuba, is raising alarms about creeping socialist influence in America. We're seeing it every day, even here in Louisville. She's especially concerned about President Trump's meeting with Mondami at the White House. Here's what she had to say.
And I salute the president for receiving Mr. Mondani because he won fair and square, and that's the way democracy works. But let me just tell you something, knowing very well how Fidel works and how Hugo Chavez works and how socialism works, that I just want to put this into perspective. If it were to be the other way around, and Trump would have been the mayor-elect, and Mondami were to be the president of the United States, I assure you that there's no way that Mondami is going to receive Trump at the White House, period. And how do I know that? Because I know exactly how they operate.
That's right.
Democracy is just a tool to get to power, period. People who love freedom were just useful fools to be used in order to get to the business of power, which is all socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it. If it's not democracy and freedom and free market economy, it's just a bad ideology.
Preach it, sister. That's exactly right. All they want is power. That's exactly right. That's all the left is. It's just a power grab. You know, they pretend to have all this compassion for the little guy or for the proletariat or for the oppressed or whatever. It's just a game. They don't care about the oppressed. They're just jealous, and they just want power. They just hate the rich. They just hate the oppressor, whatever the oppressor is in their mind. That's the only thing that motivates them. It's not that they're trying to lift up this downtrodden group, and they're as greedy. They are as power hungry as any, billionaire capitalists they claim that they are fighting against. And so, and at the end of the day, that's exactly what it is. Because like in the Soviet Union, the old joke was, everybody's equal, but some are more equal than others. So in other words, that means, there's always going to be an elite. Right, and they want to be the elite. They're saying, "Oh, you guys are bad. You're capitalists. You evil oppressors. You white Christian America, white Christian males. You're evil." And but really, what they want to be on top. They want to run things. It's all it is. It's not. Whatever. It's a rant. I'm sorry. You triggered a rant there, Bob. So,
I know.
But it's just the truth.
Every time we start talking about whatever ism out there, communism, socialism, but it's real. It's a real thing that we're seeing creep into every city in America. I mean, as we mentioned, we have a socialist on our city council here in Louisville.
That's right.
And he doesn't run from it. I mean, he ran on it.
I've got
elected on it.
I've got another picture of him, Bob. We got to pull. This is another picture of our J.B. Salinger, our Democratic Socialist, on our council, Metro Council, and
you can't help yourself, can you?
He is really an amazing musician apparently in his spare time. But in addition to spreading socialism in Louisville, he's an amazing musician apparently. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, we've got a Democratic Socialist in Louisville on our Metro Council. How did that happen, Bob? What is going on? Who voted for this guy?
It's something I don't think any of us would have anticipated happening 10, 15, 20 years ago, but here we are.
Yeah.
It's the time we're now living in, and they are loud and proud, about it. And now the question is, what are we going to do about it?
That's right.
In fact, going back to Congresswoman Salazar's message and warning, that she was giving before the United States Congress, and hearing about her family's history. Obviously, she came to us from Cuba. We have a lot of Cuban friends in our community. One of them, in fact, is an often a guest on our program. How much weight do you give to Salazar as far as her comment about the creeping of socialism into America?
Yeah, well, it's there, and and what part of it is, I understand it, right? We the young people that have not grown up in an era of the Cold War, who didn't understand what was going on, that we have this existential threat from the left, from the far left, from communists, from socialists trying to destroy us. They don't remember that. They never taught that. Our school system ignores that whole piece of history because our school system is ran by leftists, and so they want to ignore the history of communism and socialism. They want to, so people will tout the benefits of socialism, and they usually do it in the sense of, oh, look at Sweden, look at Europe, they're so socialist. No, they're not. A lot of those Scandinavian countries they claim that are socialist, they're more capitalist, they're more free market than America is in a lot of ways. They might have a few socialist programs like healthcare or whatever, but those are small countries, very homogenous. There's a lot of high levels of trust in that country. You can maybe pull off a system like that in a small country like Sweden, where there's high levels of trust. But you know what's happening now? Those countries are falling apart because there's very low levels of trust now because of immigration coming in. All the immigration fraud is destroying those systems, and so that's one reason they're becoming anti-immigration, because, hey, it's going to destroy our socialist system because these people are just scamming us left and right. And so America, we know all about that. We know all about the scamming of illegal immigrants in the immigration system. And it's, anyway, whatever. But yeah, socialism, part of it is these young people have not been taught of the dangers. And they also, they in a lot of ways have been mistreated by this economy that's been rigged against them. And so
and I'm glad you said that.
They're struggling. They're struggling. And so they're like, well,
Yeah.
maybe socialism's the way. I mean, I can't buy a house, I can't get married, I can't get a decent job. Maybe socialism. Well, the point is socialism and the ideas behind it is what has caused this problem. We've basically socialized our economy, and we've dumped in millions of immigrants to undercut the economy and destroy, create inflation and everything else. So so they would be doubling down on the problem if they went that direction. But you can see how those ideas appeal to them, because something needs to change with these young folks. And so, and here's the thing, Bob, and people have warned this, and it's very true. If we don't figure this out, and if we don't get some sort of economic renewal that affects young people, we will have a socialist country. These young people are going to be radical enough to where they're going to say, this system doesn't work for me. Let's just flip the apple cart and just start all over. And so we've got to do something. So anyway, go ahead.
There's a lot that are right there, Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that's right there. And again, that's why we're seeing a lot of these socialist leaders being elected around the country. And again, just as far as Trump's meeting with Mondani, does that raise concerns for you? Does that put up a red flag to you?
On some levels, since I know Donald Trump as much as we do now, and I've got a lot of trust in his instincts, and I think he's a shrewd negotiator, and he's someone that I think he used the axiom of, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And so that's why he always talks about my friend President Xi, or my good friend the president of North Korea, or my good friend Putin. They're not his friends, but he's trying to develop a relationship with these folks so he can negotiate with them and get what he wants, get his agenda pushed through with these men. And so I think that's what he's doing here. He's not going to go along with Mondami's socialism, but he's going to. It's better to talk to your enemy in order to influence him to win him over to your side than it is to just fight them and not do it. Just end up becoming a.
Sure.
I mean, because he's a fighter too. He's a fight. He will fight, but he uses a carrot and stick, and so he's a genius when it comes to negotiating. And so I think part of it's that.
and that's a point that I think Congresswoman Salazar was trying to make is really, if the shoe was on the other foot, you would not see.
Mondami, that's
Trump,
right.
Being invited to the White House. If Mondami, God forbid, was our president, you would not see that meeting taking place.
That's right.
And that's the thing. The Bible talks often about to be wise as serpent yet gentle as doves, but and I don't think Trump's no fool. And even though some of our acquaintances on the left would argue that point, but he's not. And I've got to believe that there's a bigger play at hand here. With regard, because and we'll be talking about other things in the show today that you're not going to want to miss, because there's so many things. It's I can't even begin to tell you all the things that are going on right now in the world. It's evolving quickly. It's really almost like a fire hydrant that's spewing out water, everywhere. And we have a lot of factors that we need to be very concerned about, folks. And again, we do want to invite you to tune in. In fact, actually text your comments to us at 502-571-0970. Again, that text line number is 502-571-0970. I know on yesterday's show, we had a ton of texts come in. So we'd like to hear from you today. This is Friday, finishing Friday, if you will, for the week. And I just want to say that, Congressman Salazar does bring a very unique, passionate perspective, and her concerns are hitting home for a lot of America. I do invite you to stay tuned, because we have a very, very eye-opening segment coming up featuring CIA analyst Sarah Adams. Stay tuned.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
And you're listening to Kentucky's Voice, the Tom and Bob Show. We're so glad that you joined us today. And in fact, if you'd like to join in the discussion, your comments are very important to us. You can do so by texting us at 502-571-0970. Again, that number is 502-571-0970. National security is back in the spotlight as former CIA analyst, and I'm sure you all have probably seen her at various times because she seems like she's turning up everywhere. Sarah Adams, she basically continues to warn Americans about what she feels vulnerabilities that we're now facing with regard to a potential terrorist attack. And experts who are in the know have joined her in sounding the alarm. People like retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann and retired Army Colonel Glenn Kelly, who are saying that terrorist attacks are coming soon because primarily of the Joe Biden open border policy. In fact, both Scott Mann and Glenn Kelly, we've been blessed to have them on our show. They are former Green Berets. And they've been talking about this for over a year. So it's not like something that's brand new, but I've even been hearing a lot of chatter about something happening in or around December the 14th, December the 10th, 14th of this year. Again, what that means, I don't know, but that has been out there floating around. I do have a clip from Sarah Adams that I want to share. Please play clip 2.
We have not had a man walk up to a building with a suicide vest on the United States. Americans don't understand this. Al-Qaeda knows this, right? So this is new and innovative, especially now you don't have to walk upside of the building. You can walk in the building because of the advancement of the vest. The other thing is, in the United States, we haven't had Fideian attackers. So the concept is the terrorist fights to the death. So he's not exactly a suicide bomber, but he will fight till either all of us are dead or all of his people are dead. We think it's going to be a swarming attack, right? Multiple different attacks at one time across multiple cities. I think there will be suicide bombers just because some of the attackers went through suicide bomber training and they have these vests. And then we think there's these Fideian attackers who will carry on until they're killed.
You just rephrase that. So these guys are trained and they are going to fight until they're killed.
Yes, and that matters, right? So I was watching this video and it was a suicide bombing in Kabul years ago. The bomber blew up and then everyone starts moving in. The first responders move in, right? And then another guy walks in and blows up. We know this is a tactic. But if Americans don't understand this as a tactic and don't understand these attackers are going to fight to the death, think about that. Battle's going on. The attacker surrenders. He might have the suicide vest. You know, we let our guard down. That man came to die, right? He's going to fight till he dies or you die. So we can't let our guards down, and they know our weakness. So we have to be very careful that we don't have more people die in these second and third order effects of not knowing their intent.
Tom, I got to ask a question. When a former CIA analyst, she did this for a living, and from everything I've heard, she was one of the best, is speaking out and saying things like this. How seriously should Americans be taking her warning right now?
Well, I mean, we just had a terrorist attack in D.C., 2 weeks ago, you know, from an Afghan radical, Muslim Brotherhood influenced radical. You know, Bob, if you import the third world, you get third world problems, right? You become the third world. And so what happens in the third world? Well, the stuff that she's talking about, suicide bombing, Fedayeen attacks, and all these tribal, religious, hatreds and these conflicts that are going on around the world. That we just imported that into the U.S. It's like maybe we were just bored as a country. Maybe we're just, we have too good of a life here, and we need to mix it up a little bit. So it's kind of, who knows what this. But she's right. There's very much a threat. There's a fifth column here of people that have been imported into this country, which is so odd. Why do they want to come here if they hate the place? For one, but. Maybe it's nefarious. Maybe they come here just to fight us, or maybe they come here and they think, well, maybe I'm here economically, I'm just going to have a better job. But now that I'm here, I just hate all these people. They're all a bunch of Christians and Americans. They don't like me, and I'm gonna blow. It's just this really strange psychology that we're dealing with here. But but it's a real threat, and we can't just ignore it. It's happening, and we need to be vigilant, and we need to actually start deporting people. I mean, deporting people that show any inkling of this ideology. If you want to, if you're calling for a call to prayer in your city at a mosque, we need to go investigate that mosque, see what they're preaching, ask people what they believe. How long have you been here? What do you think about Sharia law? Oh, you want Sharia law? Sorry, you're going back to your country. They have Sharia law in your country. Why don't you go back to your country? And we need to get real aggressive about deporting people based on not just on are you overstaying your visa or whatever, but just ideologically. I mean, are you really an American? Are you, just because you signed a piece of paper and you swore all this stuff, are you really loyal to this country? If we went to war with the country you came from, would you side on the country that we're going to war with, or would you side on America, on the side of America? And I guarantee you, most of these Muslim immigrants who are real serious about their Islam, if we were going to war against a Muslim country, they would side with the Muslim country. Guarantee they would. And so we need to really get realistic about it. We need to get very realistic about loyalties. I was listening to somebody the other day talking about Ellis Island, and we talk about that great era of immigration into this country. And one of the things that they did was they would come in and they would grill these people, and they would just make sure that they're healthy, they're want to be good Americans. And then there was a sign that they had hanging up as you walked off of Ellis Island onto a boat to go to the shore, go to the mainland. The sign said, "Be loyal, be loyal." That's a huge sign. And so we understood it back then. That that you can't just become an American just by putting your feet on the soil. You don't suddenly become loyal to America because you step foot in North America. You have to really buy into who we are, buy into our Judeo-Christian traditions. This is a Christian country, Judeo-Christian country, whether you like it or not, it is. And if you go to change that, that's a real conflict within our culture. And so that's why I applaud Trump for banning all this immigration from countries that don't see that, basically Muslim countries that are basket cases and don't have the our way of life. Even to live even close to our way of life. And so it's just common sense. But in this day and age, oh, you're racist. Oh, you're so. It has nothing to do with race. It's all about loyalty.
You're touching upon something. Our political divide, is really what it comes down to. And do you think this division, for the has really made it harder now for the United States to detect or prevent large-scale attacks?
Yeah, because the division is based on an ideology, and it's based on this utopian ideology. You've got traditional America, represented by folks like you and me, and folks on the right and MAGA, and traditional American, Judeo-Christian views of the way we operate, freedom and liberty, et cetera. And then you have the left, which is utopian in its mindset, and they actually think that we as Americans are oppressors, and the rest of the world, the third world, has a right to come here, and it's a good thing for them to come here and kind of dilute our culture and supplant the political power that you and I represent in this country. It's a really deliberate thing. It's like, because you want to ask them, say, well, why do you want all this immigration? Why do you want this type of immigration? What's the benefit to you? And well, first of all, they live in little gated communities. Most people that advocate this stuff can have these boutique values that they don't have to suffer from the results of their bad policies. So they're like for example, all these middle-class white housewives in the East End, they can have these boutique values and put the sign out front that says, welcome all refugees, we love everybody. Yeah, but we don't see you living down in Fairdale, that's in a neighborhood that's totally been changed demographically to no one speaks English. You don't live there. You don't have to live with that. And so a lot of it's just that. It's boutique values, but it's utopianism, and it's, all cultures are equal. We can all live together. No, not all cultures are equal. The culture of Islamic terrorist wants to kill you. That's not a very good culture to be around, and so that's not an equal culture to American culture. So we got to get very wide-eyed about this stuff and get real.
These warnings, Tom, are very sobering, and we as Americans need to start keeping up to this. I got some breaking news I'm going to share with everybody in the next segment. Be sure to stay tuned. We'll be back with more of Kentucky's Voice.
Online at kyvoice.org.
And you're listening to Kentucky's Voice, folks, on the political front here in Kentucky. Sadly, state representative, and this is that late breaking news that was just announced last night, Nancy Tate, who represents District 27. She's been doing so magnificently since 2019, and it covers Meade and part of Hardin County. She announced on her Facebook page with a post that she would not be seeking reelection. Of course, she like me, most in the House of Representatives are going to be up for reelection this year, and they would normally be having a primary that they'd be facing in May. And the thing I got to say, and I will say, Representative Tate was absolutely never afraid to speak truth in the and not just truth, but truth to House leadership in the party, who often didn't take it well, including removing her from committees and things like that. She did nothing wrong. She was just speaking truth. How awful of her to do that. She is an absolutely phenomenal person and will be missed. I certainly wish her nothing but the best. I'm assuming it's not effective immediately, that she'll serve out her term in the year coming up, but she will be missed. And really her Kentucky First leadership will be missed. On another note, the Republican primary in the 4th Congressional District is turning into one of the most heated battles in the state and the nation, for that matter. Congressman Thomas Massie is facing challenger Ed Galrain, seen by many as an establishment pick, and now a super PAC apparently backing Massie has dropped a brand new ad that I just saw on Facebook. I just want to play it and see what you all think. Let's take a listen.
I started my own super PAC. Now I know everyone and their mom has a super PAC these days, but I put in $50,000 of my own money. I created all the ads myself, and I anticipate through my network, we're going to raise at least another $500,000. And my first ad is against the opponent of Thomas Massie, Ed Galrain, who's running against him for Congress in Kentucky. See, the ad goes into the billionaires that are trying, you know what? Let's just play the ad. Let's play the ad. 3 billionaires are trying to buy a puppet in Congress with $20 million. One of the billionaires is in Epstein's Black Book. They're trying to help their puppet Ed Galrine. What does Puppet Ed believe? Keep following the money. Puppet Ed gave money to Lindsey Graham, which means more war and more foreign aid. Americans are tired of having their strings pulled. Say no to Puppet Ed and his puppet masters. This ad was paid for by Free America for Ourselves PAC, FAFO. Wow, that's a tough hitting ad, isn't it? I don't know how Puppet Ed's going to survive that. I'm very proud of it. I made it myself. That's my voice. I did all the editing, found all the graphics myself. And you know what's funny? Thomas has no idea I'm doing this for him. I wonder what his reaction will be when he first sees it. Hopefully good. Hopefully it's not like, oh my God, take that down. It's making us look bad. But no, I hope he likes it. But yeah, these 3 billionaires, they're not even from Kentucky. 2 of them from New York, 1 of them are from Las Vegas. You think these 3 billionaires care about the people who live in the 4th District of Kentucky? Like, come on. You think they're just like, the people in Kentucky in that area really don't have good health care and have a problem with their groceries. We need Puppet Ed Galrine to go there and help them. I think the people in Kentucky are going to see through this. This is just to help them have a clear idea of who the puppet is and who the puppet masters are.
Well, Bob, my question is, does this guy live in Kentucky? Is he a Kentuckian?
I don't, it's funny you should say that because I got on the comments, and honestly, Tom, I'll say right up front, I don't know what to think about that ad.
Yeah. I know. I'm kind of torn over the issue. I get the critique of Massey, and I kind of like Massey on some level, but at the same time, I understand why Trump is going. And it's not just an establishment candidate. Ed is not just an he's a Trump-picked candidate, and Trump is not establishment. So but it's a complicated issue. And I tell you what, I'm glad I don't live in the 4th District because I don't know how I'd vote on this right now because I'm kind of torn. I don't like people taking our congressmen that have done well for our state and taking outside money and trying to push him out. At the same time, if he's not doing well for our agenda, which sometimes I question his motives and what then maybe he needs to be removed. So I don't know. I'd love to hear some opinions from people today. So 5710970.
I wish some folks would text in their comments.
I really want to know. I really don't have a good answer right now on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that text line number is 502-571-0970. Again, 502-571-0970. I promise we'll share whatever you text into us. Your voice does matter.
Are you voting for Massey or are you voting for Ed? I mean, because it's getting close, and you're gonna have to make a decision, and so somebody's gonna win.
As of today, I'm voting personally. I live in that district. I'm voting for Massey.
Okay. All right.
As of today.
Now, what? Just why? Why are you voting for Massey? Just what? As your.
I think he personally is one of the few non-establishment candidates, that's currently running. I don't think he's a man that's easily bought. I do like at the heart of him and how he won the first time. He had the audacity to call for a balanced budget, a balanced federal budget, and he has stuck to his guns on that. And I know the times I've seen him out in public, as well as not just me. My wife goes to Washington quite a bit, has a chance to meet with really all of our congressional leaders there. And he has this really neat little thing. It's a federal debt counter on that he always wears on his lapel to remind people that our federal debt is going up by the trillions, and that's something that's very important to him and Rand Paul. Do I like everything that they've done? No, but again, at the heart of it, I don't want somebody that's a rubber stamp necessarily for anybody, let alone the president. And I love Trump. I voted for him all 3 times, but he's not always right.
I guess the counter to that would be this, I get what Massey's doing. He and Rand Paul they're very much deficit hawks, and they're trying to be that part of the Republican Party that reminds that reminds the party that, hey, we're a party of fiscal responsibility, and we've got to deal with this. This is going to crash the country eventually. So a lot of what he's doing is just symbolic votes to remind people of that issue.
Correct.
I don't think he's actually going to cause a critical Trump policy to fail. So I think he's just doing this symbolically because he knows if he votes, it's still going to pass anyway if he votes against it. However, this is an all-hands-on-deck existential moment for the country. We are in a counter-revolution. Trump represents that. We were on the precipice of going into a socialist, hellhole in this country. That we're conservatives. We're about to be locked up. We were being canceled. We were being we're in a counter-revolutionary moment, and we need all people to pull together. That's why this whole feud that's developing on the right between like people like Turning Point and Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and all this, Fuentes, all this stuff. It's so heartbreaking because, guys, this job is not done. We've got a huge lift we still have to do, and now we're all squabbling. And so my heart breaks when I see the right starting to fracture. And so not that Trump's perfect in every way. We need to hold him accountable and remind him that he's, if he goes off the tracks. But so I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this, and Massey's kind of a bit of a foil on to Trump's agenda at times. So I can get why people would vote against him if they're just that concerned about where we're going as a country. Because that's fine, Massey. Our deficit might cause us a big problem in the next few years, but they were about to. I was about to lose my job because I didn't put up the pride flag in my office, and that's more important to me right now, and so. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I'd love to hear some people's thoughts out there on this. So 5710970, if you can text us. So
and at the heart of it too, right now, it's like James Carville said back when he was advising the president at that time, said it's the economy, stupid, and that's really what it's circling back to. And I know there was a comment from yesterday's show that I just read that. Was talking about that very thing, that at the heart of the problems and the issues, we were talking yesterday very heavily about, and I still think it would do marvels eliminating the federal income tax. I think it would be one of the best things that ever happened.
That'd be genius if he does that.
It'd be genius.
And he needs to move on it quickly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To every American, but this person was saying, I don't even make enough money to be paying income taxes.
Yeah, there we go.
I have a hard enough time buying milk and eggs right now. So again, these are issues that absolutely have got to be drilled down on and addressed. Even though, again. I am a huge proponent of eliminating the federal income tax. That will have a ripple effect across our society, across our economy, and make a huge difference.
Well said. So it is the economy, stupid, and it's really what it's turning out to be right now. Yesterday I was watching a clip from J.D. Vance in one of the cabinet meetings, and he was saying that we are setting ourselves up for an amazing 2026. He feels like a lot of the economic policies that have been put in place this year are really going to see a fruition next year. So I hope that's the case, and I hope things start taking off because, listen, people are still suffering from the inflation, the Biden inflation. And, the tariffs, I know we needed to do it, but it did impact inflation somewhat. But I think we're doing okay here, generally speaking. But like I said, back to our first segment, if we don't get some real economic change that hits home to the average American, especially young voters, they're getting more and more radicalized, more radicalized to go left with socialism, or they're doing some weird right wing stuff like the Nick Fuentes stuff, So we need to get an economy that works for young people, and number one thing we can do, I think, is deportation now. Deport.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Fixes so many things.
Hold your fire, Tom. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. In fact, we are going to be taking a deeper dive into what's the scandal, major scandal that's happening in Minnesota with the Somalis, and Tim Walz, who was wanting to be our vice president. Stay tuned. We will be right back with more of Kentucky's Voice.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And as we head into our final segment today, folks, the Tom and Bob Show, again, we do welcome your comments. I know we got one in just a minute ago. Tom will be sharing that here in a second. Before he does, though, President Trump just made some strong statements, big surprise, with regard to the massive federal aid and fraud scandal that is unfolding in Minnesota, involving estimates up to $250 million, if not more, by Somali-run organizations. Let's start with what the president had to say. Play clip 4, please.
I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
And that man is never short on words.
That's awesome.
And speaking his mind, you know, and I do agree with him on every point. I don't know if I'd put it quite the same way, but I do agree with him on every point. And I do feel Tom, that we are at a tipping point with regard to where our nation's at and where it's going to go. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just what's been done to Minneapolis. Well, of course, I guess they did it to themselves on some level. They invited this and kept encouraging it. But 100,000 Somalis just dropped into a city like in Minneapolis, and just all the cultural clash that's occurring, and just the non-assimilation, and just all the scamming and graft, and it's not just there. I mean, matter of fact, I was talking to a local restaurant owner a couple of years ago, and he ran this Indian restaurant, and he was just being real blunt and frank, and we were sort of talking about politics. And he goes, why do you Americans let all these people in? All they're doing is scamming you. I mean, I know all these different. He started naming all these different ethnic groups and their scams that they run. That it's basically either welfare scams or just visa scams or just all this, basically just making money off the American taxpayer. They come here and just they immediately get into these systems like, okay, here's how you can get money. You can get EBT, you can get all this stuff, and just rely on this and and just what is it, like 80% of the Somalis are on welfare and hardly any of them working, and it's just you can't have a generous safety net system like that in a country like ours and have open borders. You just can't do it because people come here and they're not loyal enough to your culture and to your society to know where the boundaries are, and they just see it as a big opportunity, a big grab. The rest of the world operates in a very corrupt way. I mean, if you haven't traveled and you don't understand that, it's like go to Mexico, you got to pay the police off when you get a ticket, or if you want something done, you got to pay off somebody, and the rest of the world operates that way. They're very corrupt in the way and so they come over there and they go, look at these dumb Americans. They get these systems. They're just going to give me money for no reason. We're going to milk that for all we get. And so Europe's figuring that out with all the Islamic immigration. So we're just fools. We're just absolutely fools when it comes to this stuff. And Trump is spot on. And really, the right thing to do for Americans and also for the world is to have these immigrants, these illegal immigrants and legal immigrants that want to come here, stay in their own countries and fight to fix their own countries. Because, Bob, your ancestors, my ancestors, we fought war after war, political battle after political battle to make this a great place. And it wasn't easy. And we've inherited that legacy. We've inherited the legacy of our forefathers and who fought to create this country and make it as good as and we're giving it all away to people that could care less about that, could care less about you and me, our families. They're all about, what can I do? I can just show up and get all this free stuff, and these dumb Americans are going to give it to me, and I could care less.
It's bad when even CBS News is now reporting, investigating whether Minnesota welfare money that was intended for good purposes.
Yeah, it's all going to overseas,
And I've seen several stories where people have gone in there, news agencies have gone in there, and you're seeing people supposedly at poverty level and living on welfare that are driving like brand new Mercedes Benzes and high end vehicles. That tells me that somebody's pockets are being lined.
That's right, and
it's not the common person that the money was intended for. Big surprise.
That's right. Yeah. The story was that Al-Shabaab, which is one of the biggest terror groups, Muslim extremist groups in Somalia, is basically funded by the Minnesota taxpayer, and so of course, not even that, just the remittances in general. All these illegals that come here, and even legal immigrants that have family in other countries, they work and they send all this money back so the money's not even being reinvested in America. So it's like a big sucking sound of money just being drained from us, and it is so wrong. We do have a comment that came in. The gentleman says, or lady, I'm not sure who it is, but this comment is more about the previous segment. But I had this idea. Would it be possible to require all citizens to go through the citizenship program associated with legal immigration? We've got a whole generation or two that have forgotten what being American is all about, obviously for different reasons. I would say mostly because it's not taught in schools. And so, I'm kind of exactly right. I'm almost at that point now. It's like our school system has failed so much. We ought to just, before you can get a chance to vote again, you have to take a test, or something. I don't know. I mean, it probably wouldn't happen, but
it is pathetic. Basic civics are gone, and not instructed. And is it any reason that President Trump wants to dismantle the Department of Education that was created by the Carter administration and has been, by all accounts, on every level, an abject failure? We have stepped back, and he really just wants to return the money that's being spent in that direction back towards the states themselves. But when you have people like Tim Walz, Gavin Newsom, that are running these far left states, how do we know that the money that's being sent there is actually ending up with the people that it's intended for?
Well, especially if you have a state like ours that's run by the teachers unions. All that money goes to the teachers unions anyway, and to their big public school system that's corrupt and also ideologically compromised. And so, because they don't teach history, they don't teach civics, they teach grievance politics, they teach Marxism. Let's just get real frank about it. They teach left wing woke ideology, oppressor narratives. And it's ridiculous. Good example is this. I've been arguing with a few friends of mine on Facebook, and the topic comes up. Actually, there's a friend of mine. He's a pastor. He made this comment. He goes, "I encourage anyone here that's living in fear right now, that's an illegal immigrant, that to go ahead and do the right thing and go home. Go home to your own country and take the $1,000." And go, because right now the Trump administration is offering a free ticket and $1,000 to go along with it to go back to your own country. He's saying go ahead and do that, and well, of course everybody's responding and say, well, that's terrible. You're not sympathetic enough. All these poor people that have come here and da 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 da, and so. But first of all, pastors and religious leaders need to make it very clear to people that are immigrants, that are illegal immigrants, especially not immigrants, but just illegal immigrants, that theft is a sin, right? It is a sin. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's. If you're stealing residency, right? You're stealing the use of our roads. You're stealing the use of our hospitals, of our schools. You're stealing jobs from Americans. That is theft in every level. And you are not. So you might be going to a church as an illegal immigrant. Well, you need to really reflect very deeply about what you're doing, because you are stealing from the American people. And that theft is a sin. And pastors need to stand up and say that. A lot of churches are very sympathetic to the immigration issue. Like, well, they're going to our church. They're good people. Yes, but you need to be very clear about what's going on. They are stealing. And that is a sin. And so you should just do the right thing. We're not putting you in the gulag. We're not locking you up and putting you in jail. We're just asking you to go home. Go home to your own country where you came from, which very often a lot of these people are just waving their flags from that country anyway. I was over here watching a video of this Guatemalan Independence Day celebration in Newburgh, like right down the road from us. And it's like last year, and all these Guatemalan flags being waved up and down the street. Well, if you love the country so much, go back there. Just go on back there. And so, and we're not asking you to do something evil. And here's what they'll respond. Here's the number one response. Well, you stole the country anyway. You're living on stolen land. What do you mean? So you're saying we're stealing? Well, you stole this country. And the answer to that is this. No, we didn't steal this country. Americans are descended from the settlers, English settlers that came here to a basically open, empty land. Yes, it was basically empty. And you wanted to look at the demographics of it. I've studied this. There's probably maybe 50 to 100,000 Indians across the entire continent of the United States at the time that the English settled. The reason is they were wiped out by disease. When the Spanish came and explored North America, they brought disease. It's tragic, but it's true. They didn't do it on purpose. They just didn't have immunity. Wiped out millions of people in this. So the country was empty. This was an empty continent. And so the English settlers, they settled, and they created homesteads and cities and a civilization in an empty land, and they created this country. They weren't immigrants. They created the country. And so when they say, well, you're an immigrant too. No, most people in Kentucky, we're from people that came from Virginia, North Carolina, that we basically created this country. We created the country that you could immigrate to, and we didn't steal this land. It was empty. Yeah, there was a lot of conflict with the Indians, but at the end of the day, there were so few of them. Most settlers, when they went in and built a homestead, they didn't see an Indian for years until they showed up, hey, this is my land. And so So that's just a big lie and a misnomer. And actually, it's the way the Americans settled this country is the most benevolent, way that any culture's ever settled a continent ever. Especially when you're dealing with, indigenous populations. I mean, if we were settled by Muslims or settled by Tsarist Russia or settled by some African despotic kingdom or the Chinese emperor, you think they would have treated the Indians as well as we treated the Indians? I mean, granted, we did some bad things. We had some treaties that failed, but a lot of Indians assimilated, became part of our culture, and we celebrate them to this day. And so it's very complex, but all that garbage, you need to go home. If you're here illegally, do the right thing for yourself, for us, and for your own country. Go home. That's the moral thing to do.
Thank you, Tom, and I want to thank you for listening in today. We're about out of time. You've been listening to Kentucky's Voice. We'll be back on Monday with more thoughtful conversations and real discussion. Take care. God bless. Have a great weekend.